It is time for the final mock draft before the NCAA tournament begins. The March Madness and Maddens, whatever you want to call it. Of course, everything's going to change after the tourney. You know, the winner take all. These games are important. Backsides clutch up, people get nervous, and the stars ball out. Davion Mitchell had no business being the number 9 overall pick until Baylor won their championship, went on that incredible run. Of course, there's going to be other players who you look at, their team wasn't predicted to be any good anyway. But of the top, we'll say 5 picks, Jabari Smith, Chet Holmgren, Paulo Banchero, Jaden Ivey, and AJ Griffin, these teams are slated to be very good and have deep runs into the tournament, with Auburn being, I think, number 2, Gonzaga number 1, Duke number 2, Purdue, I believe, number 3. All these teams are slated to ball out, run deep, at least into the Elite 8, maybe even the Final 4 in the tournament. So we'll see who goes at the top. But for right now, before we even begin, I still have Jabari Smith as the highest graded player on my big board. Now, a lot of people are starting to have second thoughts. Chet Holmgren came in being the number 1 pick, and then he kind of struggled at the beginning of the season. And then what Gonzaga always does, what they inevitably do, is play a whole bunch of crap teams like Pepperdine and freaking Santa Clara, and then they run up the score. They look really good. They get the number 1 seed and then fail in the tournament. I predict that's going to happen again because that's what happens all the time. I just don't really have respect for an organization that plays UC San Francisco like 7 times in the regular season, so their regular season record looks very good. So I have Jabari Smith, number 1 overall, because he has shades of that bad dude, Kevin Durant. Now people are saying, oh my God, he's afraid of going to the paint. He's shooting 14% at the rim. Well, A, he doesn't need to shoot at the rim because they have a huge guy in Auburn. Is it Walker Kessler? I think Walker Kessler is on Auburn. Zach Edey is on Purdue. Huge big men for the college game that are just like 7'4" Boban Marjanovic behemoths. So A, they're clogging up the paint. B, Jabari Smith weighs like 7 pounds, but he's still a baller. He can shoot, spot up in your face, shoot from 3. And a lot of people are saying he can't get his own shot. Well, it's funny because I'm seeing him shoot over these smaller players in college basketball without a second thought. So I think Jabari Smith is still undoubtedly the number 1 overall pick. Going to the Rockets, going to be a great pickup for them. Number 2 to the Magic is where it starts to get interesting. I've had routinely Jaden Ivey be my second highest graded player, but there's too many guards already in Orlando with Cole Anthony, with Markelle Fultz, with recently picked up Jalen Suggs. So I think Chet Holmgren makes more than enough sense. Now, do you take Chet Holmgren or do you like Paulo Banchero better? I think Chet Holmgren has a much higher ceiling. His skill set is so unique, being that 7-foot unicorn. Nobody knows what he's going to be, but at the very least, coming out of the draft, he's going to be a block machine. He's played a lot more confident now that he's able to play Pepperdine 17 times before actually going into the NBA. So Chet Holmgren has been nothing but impressive this far. Now it gets interesting, and I've been making this pick routinely, and I'll make it again. Jaden Ivey, Cade Cunningham is going to be your backcourt of the future in Detroit. That is just lethal. Cade Cunningham does everything very well. Jaden Ivey will be that Ja Morant freak athlete, bring a little athleticism to the Pistons, which means number 4 is the Paulo Banchero pick. Now, I believe after this is a little bit of a drop-off. My tier 1 is Jabari Smith, Chet Holmgren, Paulo Banchero, Jaden Ivey in no particular order. And my tier 2 is everybody below that. So I have Paulo Banchero going to the Thunder. Going to be a great pickup. Give them some length that they've been looking for so long. Now, with the number 5 pick, the Indiana Pacers with Tyrese Halliburton, with Buddy Hield, with Malcolm Brogdon. They're in such an interesting spot because with the trade of Domantas Sabonis, hypothetically, if they get the number 1 overall pick and take a Jabari Smith, I think their rebuild is complete. Tyrese Halliburton has crazy upside. Jabari Smith, crazy upside. The roster is filled with savvy veterans who know how to play the game. So here at number 5, the only position that they really need is a good wing player because I don't expect TJ Warren to come back. I think he's on a career-ending injury at this point. He's sat out for so long. So who do you take? AJ Griffin's looked really good recently. Shadon Sharp, another guy to fit the mold of Malcolm Brogdon and Tyrese Halliburton as a tall combo guard that can do a little bit of everything. I would probably go AJ Griffin with this pick. Now, I don't love his game. I haven't been as impressed as all the other scouts have been to this point, but I think he's the best wing player coming out of the draft. Number 6 to the Sacramento Kings. I think they're going to do something completely useless and take a Jalen Duren at this point or a Shadon Sharp. Just some guys that they don't need. So we're going to go with, what's the worst pick that the Kings could make at this spot? Maybe Jaden Hardy. I'm going to go Jalen Duren here. I just never know what the Kings are going to do to fuck up their franchise. So let's take the big man who can't shoot ever, period. So with the number 7 overall pick is going to be the San Antonio Spurs. Another interesting spot. They took Josh Primo last year. I haven't seen the upside that they, I guess, saw. I don't think he's been very impressive. That said, he's still like freakishly young. I think he's the youngest player in the NBA right now. Dejounte Murray is, of course, balling out, so they need a wing player. I think the Spurs go best player available, guy who can get his own shot, guy who has been balling out for Wisconsin, and I'm huge on. Johnny Davis is supremely impressive from everything that I've seen this year. Coming up with the number 8 overall pick, and this is a perfect spot for Shadon Sharpe to go. The Blazers are in rebuild mode. Now, I know. They haven't traded away Damian Lillard. They said they're going to rebuild around him with Anthony Simons, with Josh Hart, and whatever. Look, you see their roster. They're playing guys like Greg Brown, Deion Johnson, Trendon Watford. Those are the standouts right now. They are in rebuild mode, even if they don't want to admit it. Shadon Sharpe has huge upside. Again, supposed to be like the 3rd rated prospect in the 2023 class. Has a little bit of size, something that Anthony Simons does not. We'll see how they're going to make that kind of lineup work. Damian Lillard, Anthony Simons, and Shadon Sharpe, but go all upside, best potential available. With the number 9 overall pick, another interesting spot for the New York Knicks. I'm going to go with Ty Washington. Now, he's not a pure point guard, but what do I always say? What does everyone say about the New York Knicks? They need a point guard. They need a point guard. They need a point guard. The biggest 3 needs on the New York Knicks is number 1, point guard. Number 2, point guard. And number 3, point guard. So we're going to take the best-ish point guard available. Now, honestly, I have, where is he? J.D. Davidson is the best pure point guard available. Of course, he's going to be available way later than, what is this, pick 9. I think Ty Washington is the best point guard-ish player available. Maybe he'll be able to develop that facilitation game. He's already able to score. Very good player out of Kentucky. With the number 10 overall pick, projected to go to the Blazers yet again, this is another spot where you can go upside. Now, they could really use some size on this team, and I think Patrick Baldwin Jr. would be a great fit. Maybe Nikola Jovic. Big guys who can play the 4, have a little bit of different skill sets. I think that Patrick Baldwin Jr. and his ability to score is going to do a little more for the Blazers with Damian Lillard, depending on if Damian Lillard is still there. Number 11 pick goes to the Memphis Grizzlies. Doesn't that hurt to say, Los Angeles Lakers fans? And the Grizzlies have an embarrassment of riches. They have 3 picks in the first round. What direction do you take with this pick? Last time they took Zaire Williams. Clearly, they say they have a need. They want all upside wing players. Ja Morant, obviously a beast. Desmond Bane, obviously a beast. Jaren Jackson Jr. can play the 4, can play the 5. Steven Adams is still here, playing very well also. So what do you want here? A wing player, somebody who can score off the bench. They already have that in D'Anthony Melton. I mean, they have so much talent on this team. I'm going to go best player available. I'm going to take Benedict Mathurin, been very good for Arizona. Number 12 to the Wizards, another team that's in purgatory. Not good enough to win a championship, not bad enough to tank. What do you do with this pick? Now, they could use a point guard as well. Unfortunately, there are just no point guards out there in this class. There's literally J.D. Davidson. Kennedy Chandler's way too short to actually play the point guard. He's like 5'11" out of shoes. Who do you take with this pick? I'm going to have to go with the guy that I think is going to be the best point guard available, even though he's not really a point guard, in Dyson Daniels. The G League Ignite are doing this weird thing where they're playing 2-3 guys out of position. Dyson Daniels, more of a combo guard wing player, is running the point guard. Michael Foster Jr. is more of a 3, and they're playing him at the 5 because they don't have anybody else. And Michael Foster is slow as dirt. So we're going to take Dyson Daniels for the Wizards. Not a really interesting pickup, but I think he'll be able to run the point for them now that they got rid of Spencer Dinwiddie. Now that Bradley Beal can go back to his original position as scoring 2 guard. With the 13th overall pick, this team really needs a center, and this team really needs a wing player because Gordon Hayward's going to be hurt 9 days out of 7. You look at the center position, there's a lot available, but not a lot of high upside guys. Walker Kessler is really nice at 7 foot, but he's not really a projected first round kind of guy. Mark Williams been really impressive at Duke. You really want to take him with the 13th overall pick. Again, Michael Foster is here. Christian Coloco could be really good for them. I love him alongside Benedict Mathurin. Or do you want to take a wing player? Keegan Murray's been falling a little bit. I had him fall in my last draft. I'm not as high as others are. They also have that position filled out with Miles Bridges. Do you play Miles at the 3? Move Gordon Hayward to the bench? So I think you have to go center in this position, and I believe I picked this in the last mock draft, but Christian Coloco is my best rated center. I know he's less in this rank. Walker Kessler doesn't have the physical upside. Mark Williams could be a pick as well, but I just love what Christian Coloco brings with his verticality. Going to the 14th pick, another team that's kind of in what do we really do mode. They have almost every position set in theory. Clint Capella will run the 5. Trae Young runs the 1. John Collins at the 4. Whole bevy of players at the 3. Kevin Huerter, DeAndre Hunter. Danilo Gallinari, etc., Bojan Bogdanovic. I mean, they've got some great young guys in Sharif Cooper and Jalen Johnson that just haven't been able to crack the rotation either. So do you want to take another backup center? No, they have Onyeka Okongwu. You want to take another backup point guard who's not going to get any minutes because Trae Young plays like 40 minutes a night? No. So you go with best wing player available. I think Jaden Hardy could slide in here, kind of take over Lou Williams' role off the bench, scoring a little bit of a fire starter. With the 15th overall pick, the Thunder, yet again, after the Paolo Banchero pick, are still looking for size and looking for scoring. Now, I think Kendall Brown could be a really viable option here, catching the alley-oops alongside Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Josh Giddey. That said, he doesn't really spread the floor. He can't shoot to save his life. Ochai Agbaji, same thing, but he can shoot. He is a little bit older. I think you either go two directions here, all upside with Kendall Brown, the freaky athlete, or you go with the center position that they have literally zero players of, and we'll grab Mark Williams. I know it's listed here at 6'10". I think he's closer to 7 foot. The dude is long. He blocks shots. He does everything that you need him to. Coming over to the 16th pick via the Brooklyn Nets to the Houston Rockets, and I think this is the perfect spot to take a Keegan Murray. Been falling a little bit. I'm not as impressed as most draft analysts are with his game, but I think he's a very solid big wing player, can play the four, give you some length. The Spurs picking yet again, and I think they'll go with the project player here in Kendall Brown. Dude has crazy athleticism. He just can't shoot. Maybe they can get the shot doctor that fixed Kawhi's shot to fix Kendall Brown's shot and turn him into, I don't know, Kawhi 2.0. Moving on to the number 18 pick, and what direction do you want to go with the Minnesota Timberwolves? Finally making the playoffs, finally above 500 for the first time in forever. And they have such a stud roster. Karl Anthony Towns, former number 1 overall pick. D'Angelo Russell, former number 2 overall pick. Anthony Edwards, former number 1 overall pick. Jared Vanderbilt and Jaden McDaniels playing the 4. Patrick Beverly, give him toughness off the bench. Josh Okogie, just an effort guy. Jordan McLaughlin, another good backup point guard. Naz Reid, a good undersized center. So they kind of need a 4. Maybe I'd take Ochai Agbaji here. I'm really impressed with his game, and I know that he's a senior. Don't draft the older guys, but the dude is doing everything you need him to for Kansas. He shoots 40% from 3. He defends. He's a great athlete, and he provides veteran leadership. So I think he can slide into this team that's looking to finally win now in Minnesota. Moving on to the 19th pick that the Pacers got via the Karis LeVert trade. Of course, they had AJ Griffin with that number 5 overall pick. Again, they have a lot of talent on this team, a lot of redundancies, so you probably want to go best player available. And I don't want to go point guard, of course, Malcolm Brogdon and Tyrese Halliburton. I don't want to go center. They have Isaiah Jackson, Miles Turner. I think you look at wing players and you say, what's the best that I'm able to get at this spot? I really like EJ Liddell. I really like Trevor Keels, Blake Wesley, but I think Nikola Jovic offers such a unique skill set. He's a facilitating big man who can shoot a little bit, play defense a little bit. Now, he's not going to be the great athlete that you'd hope from your wing players, but he has that smarts. He has that skill set that's able to overcome his physical limitations. With the number 20 overall pick, the Spurs getting another first-round pick, took Johnny Davis with the number 7 overall pick, took Kendall Brown with the number 17 overall pick, and I think this will be a good spot for MarJon Beauchamp to go. He's been really impressive in the G League as a supplementary player. He doesn't need the ball in his hands. He plays really high-effort defense, really solid catch-and-shoot shooter for Dejounte Murray, for Johnny Davis. He's not going to clog your offense. He's not going to clog up the floor. He's able to shoot from the three-point line. I think MarJon Beauchamp is exactly what the Spurs could use. With the number 21 pick is the Denver Nuggets. Now another team that hypothetically has every position set. You look at their depth chart. Jamal Murray, if he comes back. Will Barton, Thrill. Michael Porter Jr., if he's healthy, question mark. Aaron Gordon and Nikola Jokic. And the real question is who at this position can space the floor, pair up alongside Nikola Jokic. They don't need to be able to get their own shot. They do need to be able to shoot the 3, provide some driving lanes for cutters for Nikola Jokic when he's posted up. So the guy that I'm thinking goes here a little bit early in this consensus draft is Max Christie. Now, he had a horrible start to the season, played really well after about halfway through, finally figured out his role. He's going to catch the ball and he's going to shoot the ball, play with effort on defense, and he'll grab minutes in Michigan State. Max Christie, going to be the pick there. Struggled a little bit, but I'm really impressed with the way he's handled the adversity out there on Michigan State. With the number 22 pick, the Chicago Bulls, it says they really highly need a power forward. I think I said this last time. They have Patrick Williams. He just needs to be healthy. So do you want a point guard? You're kind of set. Lonzo Ball, although he's injury riddled. Alex Caruso is a perfectly fine backup. You want a center. Nikola Vucevic is there. Tony Bradley is the backup, but he's a little undersized. I think another spot where you just go best player available, and I think Trevor Keels out of Duke is going to be that guy. Now he is the third, fourth option on that team, but he's a highly impressive wing who can get you some buckets. Number 23, the Brooklyn Nets via the Philadelphia 76ers pick. They need a lot, and they found a lot this season in Kessler Edwards, in David Duke Jr., in Day'Ron Sharpe, Cam Thomas with a lot of their late first round picks last year. They just need some size. So I think either Jeremy Sochan or Tari Eason goes here. I'm going to take Tari, even though he's not quite the athlete that Jeremy Sochan is. You don't need athletes at this point for the Nets. You need guys who can play basketball. And Tari Eason, although he's very unimpressive physically, is a good enough player to give some length and defense to the Brooklyn Nets. With the number 24 pick, the Memphis Grizzlies, again with their second pick of 3, have, again, an abundance of riches. I think you go Jeremy Sochan here, get a backup 4. I don't know. You have so much on this team. You're basically set at every position. John Morant. They don't even have Tyus Jones here, but he's the backup point guard. John Morant, Tyus Jones, Desmond Bane, Dylan Brooks, Brandon Clark, Jaren Jackson Jr., Steven Adams. I mean, you're so stacked at every position. Backup center, backup point guard, backup wing players. You don't really need anything. I'm going to go with Jeremy Sochan here, a very decent athlete. Maybe he can provide some more high-flying alley-oop lobs that, of course, they need out there in Memphis. With the number 25 pick, the Dallas Mavericks definitely have been playing a lot better as of late. Now, do I want to go with a big 7-foot guy here that's going to do the exact same thing that Boban did? Not really. Walker Kessler is a perfectly fine big man. He's actually got very impressive foot speed for a guy that's his size, but he doesn't really offer you much offensively. Now, a lot of these guys can't actually shoot the ball unless you want to take a Jean Montero, who's barely 6 feet tall. He's like 20 pounds. The rest of these guys can't really shoot. EJ Liddell, Walker Kessler, Blake Wesley, JD Davidson. None of these guys have a solid shot. So I think my options here are either Wendell Moore Jr., who's getting a knock because he is a junior, shooting 40% from the 3-point line, or you go with an athletic big man who can run for you, set screens, play defense, and give you some athleticism that maybe Dwight Powell cannot do. And that's Musa Diabate out of Michigan. I like his game. I think he's going to give some size to the Dallas Mavericks. As for the number 26 pick, the former defending NBA champion Milwaukee Bucks are sitting here. They're in a weird spot. I think you might think about going point guard here. And I take JD Davidson. I know he can't shoot, but do you really need anything at any other position on this team? They have Drew Holiday. They have Giannis, Grayson Allen, Pat Connaughton, Chris Middleton, Bobby Portis, Brook Lopez, Big Sandro Mamukelashvili. Thanasis comes in and plays hard for 2 minutes a game. I mean, this is another team that's stacked. So maybe JD Davidson comes in here, gives them backup point guard minutes that they thought George Hill could bring. Obviously, he could not because George Hill is a bust everywhere he goes. With the number 27 pick, the Miami Heat, they could use some forwards, could use some defensive big guys. Take a Bryce McGowan's here, take a Caleb Houston. I think Ousmane Dieng would be the interesting pickup here. He's 6'10", is getting shit on in the Australian Basketball League because the coach just doesn't like to use him. He's been struggling with his confidence issues, but I think he has a really lot of potential upside that you won't find many people take at this number 27 overall pick. With the 28th pick, the third and final pick of this freaking draft for the Memphis Grizzlies, who have way too many good players. Where do you go here? I think you take just another really good player in Blake Wesley. He's just a very solid freshman for them. Led the team to the NCAA March Madness. Took down the number 1 seed. I forget who they played. Yeah, I think it was this game against Kentucky when Kentucky was like the number 1 or number 2 seed. And Blake Wesley essentially led them to the win with his athleticism, with his ball handling, with his playmaking. He impressed me with that game. And maybe he hasn't been impressive outside of that game, but I really like Blake Wesley coming out of this draft. With the number 29 pick, the Warriors, another team that has too much of everything. I'm going to go with the point guard here. Even though he's undersized, maybe the Warriors system can make it work with Kennedy Chandler. I think the best facilitator in this class, I think he's too undersized to actually play the point guard position. I really see him as like a Shreve Cooper, 5'10", 5'11". That's not sustainable in the NBA. And with the 30th pick, the final pick, the Suns going to Oklahoma City. Who do you take with this pick? Of course, they have like another pick in 4 rounds, so it's not going to be a bust if they swing and miss here. But again, go all upside, take some freshmen. John Montero could be a nice pickup here. I think he's way too undersized, but he's going to be like Bones Highland 2.0. EJ Liddell, very solid power forward. Walker Kessler, of course, mentioned him, the big man. Wendell Moore, a junior, is the only reason I wouldn't take him here. I think they either go Bryce McGowan's, a nice guard out of Nebraska, or Caleb Houston. I've been very unimpressed with Caleb Houston, though. He comes in as a low upside, high floor kind of guy, where Bryce McGowan's is a swing and a miss. Or if he learns how to shoot, he's a swing and a hit. So I'm going to take Bryce McGowan's with that final pick of the first round for the Oklahoma City Thunder. So this is the official pre-NCAA tournament final 2022 NBA mock draft. Jabari Smith 1, Chet Holmgren 2, Jaden Ivey 3, Paolo Banchero 4, and AJ Griffin 5. Let me know what you think, what you agree with, what you disagree with, and I'll catch you in the next one.